Good morning and welcome back to a new day right here on TV3. Hopefully by now you've woken up and felt the sunshine. If not, this is not the time to go out and feel it because you have to watch our show because it gets very important now. We're about to do our business, but firstly, big thank you to Sandra and Kobia and the doctor for enlightening us a little bit more about thyroids. Now, if you've been in this world for the last 25 years, then you've realized that modern technology is developing every day. Now, with modern technology, there are people who work in the background, who do the hardware, who do the software, and then we, the consumers, just walk forward, pick up a nice new device, see, oh, wow, it's working wonderfully. But there are people who do the work in the background. And right now, we're seeing a huge emergence of software development right here in Ghana, specifically in Accra. And now Accra is almost being termed the Silicon Valley of Ghana. Not too sure about the correlation, but we're going to speak to these two gentlemen this morning. First off, we've got Herman Chinwe Hesse from the Soft Tribe. He's a speaker at Wharton Business School and also in Harvard Business Schools and Cambridge University and the University of Ghana. And also we've got Edward Amate Tego, who's a software entrepreneur. Both of these gentlemen have been in the game for a while. I actually worked for Herman about 15 years ago at the Soft Tribe myself, so boss, good morning. How's it going?
Yeah, cool.
Good. First things first, is there a software industry in Ghana as we speak?
I would say yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
It could be better, but there is. I think we've got a lot of innovative people here, and with a little support, things will happen.
It will get better. Edward, what do you think?
Herman has said yes. Who am I to say no? I would definitely agree with Herman. There is an industry which is growing.
Mm-hmm.
I would not necessarily agree with Accra becoming the Silicon Valley of Africa or of Ghana. There are certain key factors, parameters that needs to complete the ecosystem. Which
Maybe that's just come about the simple fact that most of the headquarters are probably here in Accra as well, and you feed in them. But
exactly.
Logistically, might not, be the fact.
Exactly.
But I mean, how long is it? You've been in the game for a number of years. We're not going to put a number on it. But have you seen the development of the software industry in Ghana?
Okay, I think that it's quite developed. I think it could be a lot better though. I think that in other countries, the government sector actually assists the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. One doesn't even have to be a communist or anything, but if you look at the Googles and so on, what does Google operate on? The internet.
Yes.
Who created the internet? Google didn't create it. So
That's
the US
right.
government.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of synergies that would make us take off. Sometimes successive governments, we haven't found that they have been as responsive as they could be. So they are trying, but there's a lot more to do. Also, there has to be a specific plan. If you look at India, the government took on the task of setting goals to achieve a situation where India would be a powerhouse in software.
Right.
We don't know that we've done that here. You see what I mean? The educational systems are not connected to the companies that hire the people. I mean, for example, we've never been, I don't know about you, but we've never been involved, for example, and we're willing to be in creating curricula for the universities and so on. So there's a real disconnect. Everybody's just working on their own. To where, to survive, we have had to work, well, maybe it's created more innovation because companies like us have had to work around these problems.
Yes.
So that we are now launching products that go to the mass market.
Yeah.
Accepting that unlike in other countries, we're not getting the support. We're having to work around, which is also creating new innovations. But we wish it was the other way.
But it's made you self-sufficient as well, hasn't it?
No doubt. But I don't know that that's necessarily a great achievement. It would have been great if we had 600 software companies with lots of young people and we were exporting. It would have been even better.
I get you. Do you find, we've mentioned the government, but do you find that there are institutions that are holding you back? For instance, we have mass ministry offices who are not computerized yet. Records departments which go back hundreds of years. Are we our own problem in the fact that we don't want to develop?
Well, I think that when I talk to my friends in government, what they say is that the donors kind of control what they can do with their money.
Right.
And that is a bit of a problem, because if you have, let's say, American aid money as an example, pushing to support our public sector in a particular endeavor, of course they will try to bring an American company. So what happens is that we have three parties against us, the local business,
Right.
the donor agency, the foreign company,
Yeah.
and our government on one side,
On one side,
and then
you
local
on the
business
other.
on the other, which is a disaster.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, how far from the actualization? I mean, looking at the actual growth where we're in, do you see light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see us reaching a point where we can actually say the software industry within Ghana is going to thrive, and we can see young people wanting to get into this kind of work?
As Herman mentioned, and as I already iterated, there need to be some factors in order to let this whole ecosystem work. There needs to be some people who've made some cash from their previous lives who are willing to take the risk to invest in this in these businesses.
Right.
There needs to be some government support that would probably take off some taxes on importation of laptops, PCs, make fiber optics or internet available. And also there needs to be a supply from the schools. The Silicon Valley alone, there are more than 10 schools, there are more than 10
Within the
universities
Silicon
Silicon
Valleys,
Valley.
yeah,
In
exactly.
Ghana, in the whole of Ghana, we have just four or five.
Right.
And the guys are willing to work with startups. And also, there needs to be some platforms that will enable these companies speak to each other, understand what you do. And more importantly, as Herman mentioned, there should be a community that understands how to use the service without you necessarily needing to maneuver around in order to make it so simple.
Obstacles that are being put in front of you.
So I would say we've actually gone a long way, but we are a bit away from the matured industries, and somebody needs to actually put in a lot more than we already are.
Okay.
I'd like to mention a couple.
Sure, go
I'd like to mention a couple of things. I'll give you examples. The other day, last year, I went to the investment center, and in my mind, if Ghana had to compete in the production of aircraft, for example, we don't have the electricity, we don't have the infrastructure, so it would be difficult for us to do that.
Yes.
It has always been my view that software is one area where, like him and I, we can compete with anybody, because if you get $100 old computer and you have some internet connection, some bad internet connection, you can start taking contracts around the world.
Yeah.
So I would think that for us, it's a way to circumvent our underdevelopment, create jobs, and create wealth. So in my mind, this should be a focus area. So, innocent me, I walked into investment center, investment promotion, and sat with them for 30 minutes. There's no concession for our industry, none. Somebody is not thinking. There is no concession whatsoever. So, for example, giving software companies that employ X number of people tax breaks and so on, we are under the radar. They're shaking down like everybody else. I mean, they're shaking us down like they would shake a telephone company. You see what I mean? Now, that's one. Two, for that progress that he's talking about to happen, we will need to have blanket laws. For example, we should say things like the raw materials that we import to do our work, technology devices and so on.
Yeah.
If it's coming to a software development company, not for sale, such things should be tax-free.
Some kind of exemption.
Exact exemption. But the biggest one of them all is that somebody should pass a law saying that 70 to 80% of government IT contracting should go to local companies. That is the winner. That's the winner. And in not doing that, and we haven't done that, and in not doing that, we are running horrible risks with data security, with all kinds of foreigners.
Now, this is
playing
what I
with
was
our
going to
data.
come to next, because obviously with us being here and being Ghanaian, we have a more patriotic obligation towards our country. Now, with foreign markets, foreign products, generic softwares, things like that, just being brought in, downloaded, being put into situations whereby they really shouldn't, are they causing these kind of security risks?
Well,
and you know, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We should be bringing it home, shouldn't we?
Yeah. These things would cause security risk, but the worst one is that we have foreign consultants working on our data. Can you imagine what that means?
We've already opened up our doors to
Oh, it's a disaster. When data goes, it never comes back.
Yeah.
And I can't understand the quality of ignorance that will lead anybody to expose some of this kind of data to have foreigners touching our data and leaving us vulnerable. Even for national security, it's a disaster. If you have foreigners running mission critical systems in this country and they decide to shut down the systems. I mean, don't forget, in the first Iraq war,
Yeah.
before the battle began, they were using some American systems. They hacked into the systems
Shut them down.
and shut them down.
Yeah.
So
They
these
couldn't even defend themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things we're exposing ourselves to, and maybe they just don't know, because we'll have a lot to answer to our grandchildren.
Because
for.
these are major security risks
they
that
are.
we are, making ourselves susceptible
They
to.
are. I'll give you a simple one. One day I was sitting in my house and I heard on the radio that I had to go and register my phone. I went to a South African company and just gave them all my details. Do you know where that? This is a
don't know where it
private
goes.
company. You don't know who owns the company.
You don't know where it goes.
The whole of
We
Ghana.
don't have a Data Protection Act.
No, we don't.
So even when you do give your information to one company, it can be passed on to
Exactly.
several.
Exactly. And it's even worse than that. When we try to take on work, like for the companies that do data entry and outsourcing and so on, that Ghana is situated like this does not lend itself well to us marketing ourselves.
Well,
Exactly, because if you market yourself, they know your country to be very lax about data and your government to be very lax with their data.
Yeah.
For that reason, they will not entrust you with their data because they know if something goes wrong,
will leak.
they can't sue you, and your whole perception of data security as expressed by the way your government invites consultants from their country makes it clear that you're not serious.
wow.
It's a problem. It's a big problem.
And just to add to what Herman just said, one would argue that probably our government is going to the west or outside because there isn't quality inside. But my defense to this argument is when you create a perception that there's only one ICT company in Ghana or there are only 3 ICT companies in Ghana. Right now, if I asked you to mention some ICT companies in Ghana, you probably mention 3 or 4 or 5, just because those are the ones that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But that is not the case. There are so many other companies that don't receive the support that's needed. So if they will probably do less politics with their procurement and open it up for other competitive teams to apply, they would actually realize that
We have it right here on our very own
We have
doorstep.
companies in Ghana that are competing globally and winning international awards.
Yes, I mean, obviously, you know yourselves. But isn't that just a Ghanaian thing now? I mean, we don't like to patronize our own goods. If it comes to textiles, if it comes to software, it comes to everything, we always turn our nose up at the very thing that's on our own doorstep, and we look at somebody else and say, they can do it better. But can they?
I hear you, but I think it's a little more sinister than that.
Go, hit me.
I think it's a little more sinister than that. You know, for all these companies all over the world that have made it big, all of them got large contracts from government. In the US is defense contracting and so on. The companies in the UK, they'll get contracts to the post office, the national health. It is the size of those contracts, the sizes of those contracts will lead them to have a healthy margin, which then him and I can use to invest in something. Your younger brother is starting a company, or younger sister, and then we help her to start
the knock-on effect.
The knock-on effect. Now, what we're doing is we're exporting our money. Now, I argue that there is clear evidence. The solutions that are required here are best delivered by us. The other day, there was I won't mention names, there was a foreign company that runs a major government installation. When they do their processing of the data, it takes 6 days. We installed our system 25 minutes. I mean, it is night and day. Yet, they are in contention.
Yeah, when they shouldn't be.
Really. And that kind of sensitive data, they shouldn't even be seeing. But they're in contention. And this is how backward sometimes we can be in understanding the ramifications of our actions.
All under the auspices of Charlie, I don't want him to chop money.
Well, there's that, but there's also, I'd like to give more credit than that to our people. There's also what they keep telling us, that the World Bank is saying, go this way. They keep telling us that.
Okay, they shouldn't bring the World Bank into it, because even when the World Bank says, don't do this, we turn around and we do something 180 degrees different. So that's even a whole other case altogether. So, I mean, let me put it to you guys now. I mean, this is a national platform. Obviously, people will be watching from government. What is it that you require right now for our industry to thrive?
If there's one single thing, they should give the local companies contracts. That's it.
Passing of a bill? in government
that
giving at least 60 to 80% of local industry.
Government business should be given to local companies. I'm not saying they should give operating systems. We are not looking to write Windows. But you shouldn't be walking around and seeing ministries with all the data in a mess. It's embarrassing for us. I mean, the other day, my Nigerian business partners came to meet me at Kotoka. They came to Ghana. I met them at Kotoka. And they came out and said, "Oh, I see you've got a good contract for the airport." And I said, "Which contract?" This is a few years ago. When they had just installed that immigration thing.
Yeah.
How can such a thing be run by foreigners? How? They're going to know where you and I are traveling to. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Our government should know and release when it feels like releasing.
Yep.
Not one time go and give it to them. And it's also embarrassing. It's like you say you're a great lawyer and everybody knows your father is using some quack lawyer. If you were that great, your father would be hiring you, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a real mess in that context.
Right.
And our people haven't yet come to understand. But also, I think our governments are too oriented towards aid and buying technology from abroad. That whole colonial psychology has to go, where we think, oh, the World Bank is just the new colonial office.
Well,
you see what I mean? We can't be saying the World Bank said this one said we can't do this, this one said, we have to bite the bullet and stop being a banana republic and become a real country. And then we can have businesses anchoring with our country.
Edward?
Well, aside what Herman has already said, government interventions and all, there's one critical piece which we never mentioned, and for my part of the ecosystem, I'm a startup. My company is just 3 or 4 years old. I'm not as old as Herman's company. We need access to statistics, access to information. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine we sat in a room with telecom heads, and they couldn't tell how many Blackberries, how many Androids were on their service? Because for us, when we develop, we can't just roll out or
so
platform.
You need all the numbers.
You need the numbers. Yeah. And we've had back and forth for the past 1 year, and they still don't have access to how many people use this kind of phone, or how many people, or what time of day are they most accessing.
Yes. Gathering that information is a problem as well.
Yes.
We wanted to sell our service to businesses, and we couldn't tell how many companies make this much
market size.
How many businesses are in Ghana? We went to the IRS, we went to the Registered Agents Department, we went to AGI, and they all had snippets of this information. So we needed to sit in our room and shoot blank, shoot blind. And thanks be to God, we were actually right in some sense, and that's how come we are alive. But startups shouldn't go through such hassle. They should be able to walk to the National Archives Board or whatever, and say, I need to know how many companies earn this much, how much taxes have been paid, how many platforms are on this network, what kind of phones are people using, so that it will inform us when you are developing software for those
national
markets.
communications in this initiative.
And to add to his frustration, and not only do we need to know, if you haven't got it, call us, we'll show you how to do it, we'll do it for you. Even that hasn't been done.
See, you can even help them find out.
Exactly. Hey, you don't have a car to go to Cape Coast, no problem. Yeah. I have a car, take it.
Anyway, thank you ever so much, Edward and Herman, for coming in this morning. Herman Chinrihesi and Edward Amati Tego, enlightening us a little bit more about the software industry right here in Ghana.